The winds howl as the sky darkens, the distant thunder a low rumble in the background. The night feels alive with the weight of impending doom. You stand at the edge of your small village, looking over the homes that once seemed so familiar, but now they are nothing more than shadows, silhouettes against the dimming sky. The world around you is shifting, twisting into something unrecognizable. You inhale the air. It's thick with the scent of damp earth, mingled with something else, something heavy that you can't place. Fear. The whispers have begun. The plague is coming. The once bustling streets are now empty, save for the occasional figure hurrying inside, hands clutching scarves to their faces, avoiding the air as though it were poisoned. You feel the shift, the change, the way people have begun to retreat into their homes, their quiet fortresses. The townspeople are on edge, their faces drawn tight with anxiety, as if they can sense the darkness moving closer, just out of sight, but still there. Your mind races, heart pounding, as you stand there frozen, trying to make sense of the world that no longer makes sense. The world was never perfect, but it was predictable. You worked the fields, tended to the livestock, and cared for your family. The days were long, but they were simple. There was peace in the routine, and for the most part you felt safe, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. But now everything feels different. The news of the plague has reached your village, whispered first in hushed tones, then shouted in panic. You never thought you would live to see such a thing, such a vast, uncontrollable force sweeping through the land, taking lives as easily as a gust of wind scatters dry leaves. You can hear the hushed voices of your neighbors through the open window, their words laced with fear. They speak of the illness that is spreading across the land, its symptoms, its swiftness, and its deadly grip. The air is thick with it. You listen, heart racing, to the stories of people coughing, their skin turning black, the fever that consumes them, the death that follows swiftly behind. There are murmurs of those who've already fallen, the bodies being carted off to the outskirts of town, buried in haste, with no ceremonies, no goodbyes, just the end. You can feel the fear growing inside you, a knot in your stomach that refuses to go away. The normalcy you once took for granted now feels like a distant dream, slipping further away with each passing hour. It's hard to breathe, to think clearly. All you can do is listen, watch as the world changes around you. The village, once full of life and laughter, now feels like a place suspended in time, frozen, trapped in the waiting. Your mind drifts to your family, your mother, your father, your younger brother. You try to push away the thought that clings to the back of your mind, but it's hard. You can't help but wonder who will fall next, who will be taken. The thought of losing them, of watching them suffer, is unbearable. Your hands shake as you clasp them together, trying to steady yourself. You're not sure if you're shaking from fear, from the weight of what's happening, or from the cold that is creeping into your bones. The sounds of the village continue to grow distant, muffled by the growing storm inside you. You force yourself to move, to step away from the window and back inside. There's nothing left to do but wait and try to prepare, to hold on to whatever normalcy you can find in these dark times. But as the night wears on, a creeping doubt settles over you. What if there's no escaping this? What if this plague takes everything? The sun rises slowly the next day, but it feels distant, as though the world is holding its breath. The golden light struggles to break through the heavy clouds that have gathered overhead. The air is thick, not just with the moisture of impending rain, but with something more, a sense of unease that hangs over everything. You step outside, the cold morning air biting at your skin, and for a moment you think it feels like the calm before the storm, but you know better now. The storm has already arrived. The streets are quieter today, emptier. People pass by more quickly, heads down, eyes averted. The usual sounds of children playing, neighbors chatting, are absent, replaced by a heavy silence that settles over the village. You walk with a sense of urgency, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on you. The rumors, the stories of the sick and the dying have spread like wildfire, and now it feels like the entire village is holding its breath, waiting for the worst to come. You reach your home, and the moment you step inside, The smell hits you. It's faint at first, a sickly sweet scent that's hard to place. But as you make your way to the hearth, it becomes clearer. It's the smell of decay, of rot, seeping in from the outside world. You stop in your tracks, dread crawling up your spine. Your mother is at the stove, her back to you, humming softly to herself. The quiet sound of her song, the only comfort in the room, fills the space around you, but it doesn't reach your ears. All you can hear is the pounding of your own heart. "Mother?" you ask softly, but your voice cracks in the stillness. She turns to you, a soft smile on her face, but something in her eyes makes your stomach churn. They're too bright, too eager, as though she's trying to hide something. You step closer and that's when you notice it. The faintest trace of sweat on her brow, the way her face is flushed. She's pale, but not as pale as those who've already fallen ill. There's something wrong. You feel it in the air, in the way her hands tremble slightly as she stirs the pot. She doesn't answer right away, and in the silence that follows, your heart begins to race. You reach out to her, gently touching her arm, but she pulls away a little too quickly. "What is it, Mother? Are you all right?" Your voice is shaking now, the words barely escaping your lips. She smiles again, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "I'm fine, my dear. Just a little tired, that's all." But you know better than to believe her. The weight of her words hangs in the air, thick and suffocating. You can't ignore the sickness that seems to hang around her, hovering just out of sight. You want to help, but there's nothing you can do. The sickness is everywhere, spreading quickly, insidiously. It isn't like the illnesses you know, the colds that pass, the fevers that burn for a few days and then fade. This is different. This is something that takes you before you even know it's happening. Something that doesn't give you a chance to fight. As you help her with the cooking, the sense of dread continues to grow, knotting in your stomach. You notice the way she moves, slower now, as if she's carrying an invisible weight. Her hands shake as she works, and for a moment it feels like everything is suspended in time. You try to brush it off, try to focus on the task at hand, but it's hard to ignore. The air is thick with a sense of something just out of reach, something terrifying that you don't yet understand, but can already feel in your bones. "Mother, you start, but the words fail you. You don't know what to say. The truth is, you're afraid. Afraid of what's happening to her, afraid of what's happening to all of you. You can't help but wonder how long you'll be safe. Will it be a matter of days? A matter of hours? You've heard the rumors of the disease spreading faster than anyone can keep up with, of the villagers dropping one by one, their bodies carried away to be burned. You wonder, almost bitterly, how long it will be before your name is called, before your body is added to the pile. You look at her, and for the first time, you see her not as the woman who cared for you, who held you when you were small, but as someone vulnerable, fragile. The mother who once seemed indestructible, who always had a solution, now looks like a shadow of herself. The fear, the helplessness, it's all there, too raw to ignore. She doesn't seem to notice your stare, lost in her thoughts, her hands moving automatically. But you can't tear your eyes away from her. In that moment, you realize that you might be losing her to something beyond your control, something you don't understand. The silence between you both stretches, and for the first time in a long while, the world outside doesn't seem quite so distant. It's right here, closing in around you, and you wonder if anyone can escape it. The following days blur together, each one indistinguishable from the next. The village has become a place of whispers, of hurried footsteps and closed doors. The once vibrant street now feels empty, abandoned, as though the life has been drained from it. The disease creeps slowly but steadily, infecting everyone it touches. People are no longer just afraid of the sickness. They are terrified of the very air they breathe, of the unseen enemy lurking in every corner, every touch, every shared space. You walk through the village, passing familiar faces that now seem different, strange. The illness has changed them, hollowed them out, made them into something unrecognizable. There's no longer any space for the carefree chatter of neighbors or the laughter of children playing in the streets. Instead, there are only silent nods, quiet murmurs of dread. No one knows who will fall next, who will be taken, and that uncertainty hangs over everything, a dark cloud that casts its shadow over every corner. Your mother's condition worsens each day. The once bright spark of life in her eyes has dimmed, replaced by the fevered glaze of someone who is slipping away. She lies in bed, her body racked with tremors, barely able to speak. Every time you check her temperature, it's higher, the heat of her skin like a fire that you can't put out. The room, once warm with the smells of a home well kept, now smells of sickness, of sweat and illness, of things that cannot be healed. You sit beside her, watching as her breath comes in shallow gasps, wondering if this will be the day she slips away. The thought fills you with dread, with an overwhelming sense of helplessness that you can't shake. You press a damp cloth against her forehead, but even the small act of care seems futile in the face of what's happening. You can see the life leaving her, piece by piece, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. The village doctor has already been to your house, though his visits have grown more infrequent as more and more people fall ill. His advice is always the same: keep them comfortable, make them drink water, and pray. There are no real cures, no real treatments, just the agonizing waiting. The doctors themselves are falling ill, their hands too weak to help. You hear murmurs of them being carted away, their bodies taken with the same rapidity as the others, leaving the villagers to fend for themselves in a world where medicine is but a memory. The only thing left to do is wait. You find yourself slipping into a strange state of numbness, where time no longer feels real, where each minute, each hour stretches on without end. There is no more hope in the village, only survival. Those who are strong enough to move about still try to go on with their lives, but you can see the fear in their eyes, the weariness in their bones. They know, as you do, that death is inevitable. It's only a matter of time. The worst part is the loneliness. You used to be surrounded by people, family, neighbors, friends, but now you are isolated, stuck in this suffocating world where even the simplest act of kindness feels futile. No one can touch you without fear. No one can offer comfort without the underlying knowledge that they, too, could soon be infected. And so you are left to sit in this room, holding your mother's hand, feeling the weight of her decline, wishing for a moment of peace, but finding none. And then the worst happens. In the stillness of the night as the village sleeps, your mother's breathing becomes quieter, weaker, until it stops altogether. There is no dramatic gasp, no final words, just the quiet end of a life. The moment is almost too quiet to comprehend, too still to grasp. You sit there for what feels like an eternity, the reality settling over you like a blanket of cold. Your heart beats in your chest, thudding louder than it ever has before, but it's not enough to make her wake up. She's gone. A deep, guttural sob rises in your chest, and for a moment you let yourself feel it all. The pain, the loss, the fear. You're no longer just a witness to suffering. You are the one who must bear it. And yet, as the tears come, they are strangely freeing. For a moment you are not numb anymore. You feel the weight of everything, the helplessness, the heartbreak, and it is overwhelming. But as the sobs fade into quiet, something else takes its place. A calm resolve. The world outside may be falling apart, but you still have to live. You still have to survive. The grief is fresh, the loss is deep, but life doesn't stop. The sun will rise tomorrow, and with it the world will continue to turn, even if it feels like it's all falling apart. The sun rises the next morning, casting a weak light through the window, but it feels like the day has been robbed of its warmth. The air is colder, even though the chill is not physical. It's something more profound, more unsettling. You are alone now, truly alone, in a world that has turned its back on you. The house feels even emptier than it did before. The silence is no longer comforting, but oppressive, a reminder that things will never be the same again. Your mother's absence is a weight that presses against your chest, and for the first time, you realize just how fragile everything was. The life you once knew, the warmth of family, the routine of daily chores, seems distant, like it belongs to someone else, a version of you that no longer exists. The death toll of the plague feels even heavier now, as it takes something that could never be replaced. Your family, your home, your sense of security. The other villagers, those who remain, are quiet too. The streets, which had once been filled with noise, now seem haunted by memories of laughter and conversation that no longer echo. You pass by others, but there are no greetings, no small exchanges of pleasantries. Everyone is in their own world, lost in their grief, unsure of how to move forward. The connection that once tied you all together seems to have frayed, worn thin by the weight of the plague's devastation. You begin to wonder how many more will fall, how many more will be taken before the end. Each day seems like a gift, but one you can't truly cherish because it feels like you're always on the edge of losing something. The world around you is slipping away, not in large dramatic steps, but in small, agonizing losses. People are slowly being taken from their homes, their bodies carted away to be buried with those who came before them. You can hear the wails of mothers, the sobs of children, but you can't join in. You feel disconnected from it all. You no longer know how to grieve for others. The pain is too much to bear for anyone but yourself. And yet, you continue to move. There's no choice but to keep going. The simple acts of survival have become your only focus. You feed yourself, you drink water, you try to sleep, but it feels mechanical, like you're just going through the motions. There's no time to process the grief, no time to rest. You need to keep moving, need to keep existing, or you too will become a casualty of this slow, inevitable destruction. As the days wear on, you find yourself in the village square, looking at the empty stalls where the market once stood. The food that used to fill the wooden crates is now gone, replaced with empty baskets and broken crates. People have stopped coming. They've either fallen ill or retreated into their homes, unsure of whether they'll survive another day. You try to ignore the gnawing emptiness in your stomach, the way your ribs feel like they're pressing against your skin. The hunger has become a constant companion, but even more than that, it's the feeling of not knowing if there will ever be an end to this suffering. The day stretches on, as long and endless as the one before it. The constant threat of illness looms over everyone, and it's hard to imagine a future where things will return to normal. Will there ever be a time when the streets are full again? Will there be a day when people laugh together, when the sun doesn't seem like a distant memory? You try to imagine that world, but it feels impossible. The present, this suffocating reality, is all you can see. Later, as the day shifts into evening, you return to the home you shared with your family. The house is empty now, the smell of sickness still lingering in the corners. You light a candle and sit by the window, staring out at the bleak landscape. The world looks the same as it always has, but you know it isn't. Nothing is the same anymore. The only thing left to do is survive, to endure the grief and the pain and hope that somehow, somewhere, there will be a way out of this. But deep down, you know the truth. This is the new world. It's one where survival is the only victory, and everything else is left behind. As you sit there, in the dim candlelight, you wonder if anyone will remember the world before the plague, the lives that were lost, the way things were. And then you wonder if it even matters. The only thing that matters now is survival. The only thing left to do is live, just long enough to see another day. The days have merged into a long, unending haze. Time, once defined by the steady rhythm of daily chores, now seems irrelevant, slipping away unnoticed. The villagers, once a vibrant community, have become a fragmented reflection of what they once were. Some have left for places unknown, hoping to outrun the invisible threat, while others remain, huddled in their homes, too afraid to move. The streets that once bustled with activity are now eerily quiet, save for the occasional creak of an abandoned cart or the faint shuffle of footsteps, too soft to be heard clearly. Life feels suspended in an endless pause, caught between the past and an uncertain future. The village itself feels like a ghost town now, with homes that are either abandoned or filled with the sick. You move through the streets, though it's not really walking anymore. It's more like you're just going through the motions, your body moving on its own without much thought. You go to the market, though there is little left to buy. The stalls that once displayed vibrant vegetables and fresh bread are now barren, the produce long gone. The merchants who once filled the square are either gone or too ill to continue working. You linger near the empty stalls, staring at the worn-out wood and the forgotten crates. It feels like a dream, this quiet emptiness that has taken over the place that used to be full of life. Everywhere you look, there are signs of the plague's toll. The houses you pass by have their doors closed tight. the windows drawn shut. Every now and then, you see a small group of people, families perhaps, whispering to each other behind closed doors. There's no laughter, no chatter, just a heavy silence that clings to everything. And yet, even in this silence, you hear the occasional sound of sobs, muffled cries that seep through the cracks in the walls. The grief is palpable, hanging in the air like a cloud that refuses to dissipate. You wonder how long it will last, this feeling of hopelessness, this unrelenting sense of loss that seems to stretch on forever. You return to your home, and the familiar sense of isolation washes over you once more. You can feel the weight of your breath as you walk through the door, the heaviness of it hanging in the air. The house feels colder, even though the hearth still burns, the fire struggling to keep warmth in the room. You sit by the fire, staring at the flickering flames, watching as the wood cracks and hisses with each passing second. The warmth from the fire doesn't reach you anymore. It's as if you've become numb to everything around you. You sit there, feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders, and wonder when it will end. The plague seems endless. Every time you think it might finally be over, it returns, creeping back with new faces, new victims. You wonder if it will ever truly leave, if the village will ever return to the way it once was. The reality sets in. This is not a temporary storm. It's a new way of life, one that will change everything, leaving permanent marks on everything it touches. The days stretch on, and with each passing one, the world becomes more and more distant. The noise, the life, the vibrancy of the village, it feels like it's fading into a distant memory, something you once knew but can no longer grasp. The future seems uncertain, shrouded in darkness. It's hard to imagine a life beyond this, a life that doesn't revolve around survival. You think of the people you've lost, the friends, the family, the neighbors, and wonder if they ever thought they would be gone so soon. You glance over to the table where the remains of your family's last meal still sit, cold and untouched. The empty spaces at the table seem to mock you. How long has it been since you shared a meal with the ones you loved? How long since you could laugh and talk without fear of what the next moment might bring? The silence at the table speaks louder than any words could. You close your eyes, trying to push away the crushing weight of despair, but it lingers, just behind your eyelids, a dark shadow that refuses to fade. You want to scream, to cry, but you don't. Instead, you take a deep breath and force yourself to stand, to keep moving forward. There is nothing else to do but continue. The world may be falling apart around you, but survival requires you to keep going. You rise and move toward the window, looking out at the empty streets. The sky is still overcast, the sun hidden behind the thick clouds. It feels as though the entire world is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. And then, in the distance, you hear a faint sound, a bell ringing somewhere far off. It's not a joyful sound, but it's enough to break the silence. The bell tolls, echoing through the village, a reminder that time continues, even in the darkest of moments. You wonder who it's for, who is being mourned now, but the question hangs in the air, unanswered, just like all the others. You return to the hearth and sit back down. The fire crackles quietly, but it doesn't bring comfort. You wrap your arms around yourself, as though you could hold on to something, anything, in this world that's slipping away. But it's gone now, the world you once knew. All you can do is sit in the quiet, wait, and wonder if there will ever be an end to this. The days continue to blur together, each one heavier than the last. The coldness of the air seeps deeper into your bones, and you begin to wonder if the chill has found its way into your soul. But in the quiet moments, when you allow yourself to pause and take a breath, you notice something else, something subtle but present, a glimmer of light, just at the edge of everything. It's faint, almost imperceptible, but it's there. The village may be dying, but the sun still rises. The seasons still change, though it feels as though the world itself has forgotten how to move forward. The barren fields, once filled with crops, now stand untouched, their soil dry and cracked. The trees, which had once been full of life, now stand bare, their branches twisted and gnarled, reaching out like skeletal fingers toward the empty sky. And yet, amid all the death and decay, You notice something small, almost insignificant at first, a single flower pushing through the dirt. It's a tiny thing, no larger than your hand, but it stands out against the lifelessness around it. Its petals are a bright yellow, almost too vibrant for the grey world surrounding it. It seems out of place, an anomaly in the midst of the tragedy. You crouch down to examine it, your fingers brushing the soft petals. The flower feels delicate, fragile, yet there it is, holding its own against the harshness of its environment. A reminder that even in the darkest of times, life persists. You stand up, your eyes lingering on the small flower. You don't know why it's there, why it's grown in this forsaken soil, but its presence gives you a small sense of comfort. It's a fleeting thing, but it feels like hope, a promise that despite the overwhelming loss around you, there is still a place for life. It feels almost like a sign, as if the world is telling you that it's not over, that survival is still possible. You leave the flower behind and make your way back toward your home, but the image of it lingers in your mind. The world may be slowly dying, but you realize, in that moment, that life is still capable of surprising you. Maybe it's not about waiting for everything to return to normal. Maybe it's about finding the small moments of beauty in a world that seems to have forgotten what beauty is. Later that day, as you sit alone in your home, you reflect on the flower, on the small glimmer of light that has appeared in the darkness. You wonder quietly if there are more of these moments waiting to be found, hidden beneath the weight of the grief and loss that fills the air. You don't have the answer, but the thought of it makes the silence feel a little less oppressive. The weight on your shoulders a little lighter. You know the reality you face, and you know that the world will never be the same. The plague has changed everything, and the village may never recover. But in the quiet, in the moments when the world stills, there are small pockets of light, small reminders that life goes on, in whatever form it takes. You hold on to that, knowing that for now, it's enough. You return to the small tasks that occupy your days, keeping busy, keeping moving. The flower lingers in your thoughts, a quiet symbol of resilience. Maybe that's all you need, something small, something to hold on to, something to remind you that even when the world feels at its lowest, there is always something that can still bloom. The days pass slowly, each one a quiet echo of the one before. The village remains eerily silent, the stillness punctuated only by the occasional wind that stirs the dry leaves, or the distant toll of the bell marking the passage of time. It's hard to remember what life was like before this, before the plague, before the silence. You stand at the threshold of your small home, gazing out at the landscape, your mind drifting back to the days when laughter filled the air, and your family sat around the table sharing stories and meals. It feels like a lifetime ago, yet you can still feel the warmth of those days in your bones, like a distant memory that refuses to fade completely. You think about the past often now, as if by remembering, you can bring a piece of it back, as if the memory itself can become a lifeline, a thread connecting you to the world you once knew. You remember the sound of your father's voice as he sang, while working in the fields, the smell of freshly baked bread that would fill the house on cold mornings, the way your brother would tease you as you both played by the stream, your laughter echoing across the valley. It feels almost too distant to be real, as though the world before the plague was just a dream. But the memories are there, tucked away inside you, and you cling to them like a child holding on to a favorite toy, afraid that if you let go, it will disappear forever. You walk through the house, your footsteps muffled by the thick dust that has begun to settle on the floors. The once tidy rooms now seem abandoned, the furniture untouched as if frozen in time. Your mother's chair sits by the hearth, the one she always used to sit in, her hands resting in her lap as she watched the fire. You sit in it now for the first time since her death, and it feels wrong, as though the chair is too small, too empty. You close your eyes, remembering how her hands felt when they rested on yours, warm and comforting, a steady presence in the chaos of your childhood. It's hard to reconcile that memory with the emptiness that fills the room now. The warmth she once brought to this space is gone, leaving only the cold shadows of what once was. You find yourself searching for something, anything, that can bring back that feeling of warmth. You run your fingers over the table where your family once gathered, where meals were shared, where the world felt safe. The wood is rough beneath your touch, worn from years of use, but now it feels foreign, like a relic from another time. You wonder if you'll ever feel that safety again, or if this new world, one dominated by sickness and loss, is all you will ever know. As you sit there, the quiet stretching around you, a small sound breaks the stillness. It's faint at first, almost imperceptible, but then you hear it again, the soft creaking of the floorboards above you. Your heart leaps in your chest, and for a moment you think it's an intruder, someone else from the village, someone seeking shelter from the plague. But then the sound comes again, this time more deliberate, like footsteps. You rise from the chair, your heart racing. The house is empty, you're sure of it. No one should be here. And yet, the sound persists. You hesitate for a moment, unsure of what to do, but the curiosity pulls you forward. Slowly, carefully, you make your way up the stairs, the creak of each step a harsh whisper in the otherwise silent house. As you reach the top of the stairs, you stop, eyes scanning the darkened hallway. There, at the far end of the hall, you see a figure standing in the doorway of your mother's old room. The figure is too small to be a man, too fragile in its movements. Your breath catches in your throat as you take a step forward, the floorboards creaking beneath you. The figure doesn't move, but the air around it seems to pulse with life. You take another step, and this time the figure turns slightly, revealing its face. It's your brother, the one who had fallen ill, the one who was lost to the plague. His face is pale, and his clothes are worn, but his eyes, they are still there, the same eyes that once sparkled with laughter and mischief. For a moment time stands still. You stare at him, unable to believe what you're seeing. Your breath catches in your throat, and you feel a rush of emotions flood over you. Relief, joy, disbelief, all at once. But before you can say anything, the figure turns and vanishes into the shadows, disappearing just as quickly as it appeared. You rush forward, your heart pounding, but when you reach the door, the room is empty. There's no sign of him, no trace that he was ever there. You stand frozen, staring at the empty doorway, unsure of what just happened. Had it been a dream, a vision, or had your brother truly returned from the dead? The air in the room feels colder now, and the quiet that fills the house feels heavier than before. You stand there, in the stillness, trying to make sense of what you've just seen. But no answers come. For a moment you wonder if perhaps it was just your mind playing tricks on you, if the grief and the loneliness have finally caught up with you. But a small part of you holds on to the possibility that it wasn't a dream, that somehow, impossibly, your brother is still here. The days grow colder as the season shifts, but it's not the chill of winter that unsettles you. It's something else, something that lingers just beyond the edges of your consciousness. The encounter with your brother, or what you thought was your brother, has left you restless. You find yourself staring at the doorway, waiting for something, anything, that might explain what you saw, but nothing comes. The silence of the house has deepened in the days that followed. There's a weight in the air, as though the house itself is holding its breath, waiting for you to acknowledge it. You walk through the rooms, the once familiar corners of the house now feeling strange, unfamiliar. The walls, once filled with the sounds of your family, now stand mute, as if they too have fallen victim to the sickness that's taken everything else. The scent of the firewood burning in the hearth does little to warm the room. It only seems to emphasize the coldness of the house, of the empty spaces where laughter used to echo. Every time you pass your mother's room, you feel a pang of sorrow, sharp and deep, but you keep walking. It's better not to linger there, not to let the memories overwhelm you. The village outside is as quiet as the house, a place where time seems to have stopped. People don't walk the streets anymore, not like they used to. There are no children playing, no voices calling out to one another. The sounds of life, once so familiar, are now a distant memory. You can hear only the wind howling through the empty streets and the occasional sound of a door creaking open, but never a voice. The village seems to have become a shadow of itself, waiting, like you, for something to change. You begin to wonder if what you saw that night was a figment of your imagination, a moment of grief and longing, that blurred the lines between what's real and what's not. But deep down, you know it wasn't. There was something about that moment, about the way your brother's eyes looked, the way he turned and vanished. That feels too real to be a dream. It lingers in your mind, refusing to fade, like a whisper you can't quite hear, but you know it's there. The days pass and you continue your routine, the same tasks, the same chores, but it all feels like a performance now, something you do because there is nothing else to do. The grief is still there, sitting quietly in the corners of your heart, but it's not the loud, overwhelming grief it once was. It's become something quieter, more insidious, something that gnaws at you in the quiet moments, when the world around you stills. And then, one afternoon, the sound comes again. The creak of the floorboards above you. You freeze, your heart racing. Could it be? Could it be him again? You hesitate for a moment, wondering if you should even go upstairs, if you should face whatever this is that's haunting you. But the curiosity is too much to resist. You've been waiting for this moment, this second chance to find out the truth. You make your way upstairs, each step heavier than the last. The familiar sound of your feet on the floor now sounding strange, like they belong to someone else. As you reach the top of the stairs, you hesitate again, looking down the hallway. Everything is still as it always is, but the air feels different now, charged. You step forward slowly, your hand brushing the wall for support, as though the house itself might offer you some kind of comfort. The room at the end of the hall is your brother's old room, the room he used to sleep in before everything changed. You stand in front of the door, your breath shallow, as though something inside you is holding its breath too. You reach for the door handle and turn it, the creaking sound loud in the silence of the house. The room is dark and you can barely make out the shape of the bed, the desk, the chair by the window. You step inside, your feet soft on the worn carpet, and you feel your heart thumping in your chest. You want to believe he's here, that he's returned somehow, that he's waiting for you to find him. But the room is empty. There's nothing there but shadows. You feel a strange sense of disappointment, a weight in your chest, but also a flicker of understanding. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was just your mind playing tricks on you, grasping at a hope you didn't realize you needed so badly. But as you stand there, the silence is heavy, suffocating, and you realize that even if he isn't here, something else is, something that can't be explained, something you've yet to fully understand. And in that moment, you can't shake the feeling that there's more to this house, more to this world, than you've yet to. You stand in the empty room for a few moments longer, unsure of what to do next. The world outside is silent, just as it has been, but inside, something stirs. You can't tell if it's your own grief, your own yearning, or if it's something else entirely, but you know somehow that the answers you're looking for are here, somewhere in this house, in this village. You just need to keep searching. The days pass in quiet succession, each one blending into the next, like the unchanging beat of a clock that never quite reaches the hour. The village remains stagnant, suspended in time, the same quiet faces staring back at you, day after day. The once vibrant and bustling community is now a shell, a memory of what it used to be. The heavy air of illness still lingers, but there are moments now, small pockets of time, where something different stirs beneath the surface. A flicker of life, a quiet hum, barely perceptible but present, like a song that is just out of reach. You've learned to adapt to the stillness. It's no longer the silence of a graveyard, but something else, something more akin to waiting. People come and go in their own little worlds, but there is no longer the frantic pace of before. The market stalls are still empty, but you find yourself walking through them anyway, as if you're searching for something you can't quite name. You walk the familiar paths, past the houses that were once filled with laughter, the familiar streets that used to echo with the footsteps of friends and neighbors. You walk with your head down, not out of shame, but out of habit, avoiding the stares of others, avoiding the weight of their silence. You find yourself thinking of the flower again, the one that pushed through the hard soil, bright and defiant against the darkness. You wonder if life, in all its small and subtle forms, is really so different from that flower. Does it still have the capacity to bloom, even when everything around it has died? You want to believe that it does, but there are days when the world seems too dark to find any light, and yet you walk. Each step feels heavy, but it's a step forward. One afternoon, you find yourself standing at the edge of the village once again. The sun is hidden behind a thick cloud, casting the world in a dim grey light. The air feels thick, but there is something different about it today, something almost hopeful. You take a deep breath, feeling the coolness of the air as it fills your lungs. It's as though the wind itself is trying to push you forward, to remind you that the world outside still exists, even if it seems to have forgotten you. Your feet lead you down a path you haven't taken in a long time, through the woods that surround the village. The trees, still bare from the harsh winter, stretch high above you, their limbs reaching out like a canopy of skeletal fingers. The path is overgrown with weeds, but it is still recognizable. You can almost feel the pull of it, the way it draws you forward, toward the unknown. It is both familiar and foreign, like a place you once knew well but have since forgotten. The woods are quiet, but not in the oppressive way they once were. There's a certain peace here now, a stillness that doesn't carry the weight of death or despair. It's the kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're alone with your thoughts, that allows your mind to wander freely, without fear. You let your mind drift, back to the days before the plague, back to a time when the village was full of life, back to a time when you could laugh with your friends and sit around the fire without wondering who would be next to fall ill. But even as your mind drifts, you know that those days are gone. The past is gone and the future is uncertain. Still, you keep walking, your feet crunching against the dry leaves that cover the ground. There's a weight to each step, but also a strange sense of release. The weight of the past, the grief, the fear, the loss, is still there, but it doesn't feel as heavy anymore. You've begun to understand that the path forward doesn't require you to forget. It requires you to accept, to move forward even when the world doesn't feel like it's ready for you to. You stop for a moment, standing still in the middle of the woods, and take in the quiet. The wind rustles through the trees, the sound soft and comforting. The world is still, but it's not silent. It's alive in a way that's hard to describe, but it's there, beneath the surface, waiting to be noticed. You realize that, in a way, you've been waiting too. Waiting for the world to come back, waiting for something to change, for something to give. But maybe, just maybe, it's time for you to change first. Maybe the world will never be the same again, but you are still here, and that's enough. As you continue down the path, the feeling of heaviness begins to lift, just a little. The world outside may be dark, but you know, deep down, that there's still a glimmer of light, no matter how small, and in that glimmer you find your resolve. You find the courage to keep moving forward, to walk, to live, even if the world around you remains broken. The world outside feels different now, lighter in a way. The air, though still thick with the lingering weight of the plague's presence, seems somehow less suffocating. The earth beneath your feet, once barren and cracked, is starting to show signs of life again. Small shoots of green poke through the soil, tentative and fragile but determined to grow. It's almost as if the land itself is reborn, finding its way back after a long and brutal winter. The same feeling stirs in you, though you're not sure what to make of it. It's a flicker, an unfamiliar warmth inside your chest. Hope, you think, but you are afraid to name it. You walk the village streets again, this time with a different kind of awareness. The silence that used to feel so oppressive now feels more like a backdrop to your thoughts. People still avoid each other, eyes downcast, speaking in hushed tones, but there's something else in the air. A kind of quiet understanding. You can feel it when you pass by others, the shared knowledge of survival, the bond between those who have lived through the worst and come out the other side. There's a weight to it, but not a crushing one. It's the weight of endurance, of having witnessed loss and despair, but still being here to carry on. The days have started to feel longer, but in a way that isn't entirely unwelcome. The hours that once seemed endless now stretch out before you, offering a strange kind of comfort. The world feels slow, but there is beauty in its slowness. You no longer rush through your day, trying to escape from the weight of the plague. Instead, you take your time, savoring small moments, like the sound of a bird's call in the distance, the feel of the sun warming your face, the way the trees sway gently in the wind. They are small things, but they are enough to keep you grounded, to remind you that there is still life outside the grief. You return to your small house, and though it is still empty, it feels different now. It no longer holds the heavy silence that it once did, the silence that seemed to suffocate every thought, every breath. The air feels lighter here too. It's not the same as before, not by any means, but there's a subtle shift. It's as though the walls themselves are starting to breathe again, exhaling the weight of all that has happened. You look around the room. Your mother's chair still sits by the hearth, but it no longer feels like a space that is only filled with loss. The memory of her is still there, yes, but now it feels less like an ache and more like a quiet presence. It's not as sharp as it once was, and for the first time, you can breathe in the space she left behind without feeling suffocated by it. You walk over to the hearth and stoke the fire, the flames flickering and dancing in the soft light. The warmth feels good, like a balm for your soul. It's comforting, soothing. You sit by the fire for a while, your thoughts drifting like the smoke curling up into the rafters. You think of your mother, of the way she used to tend to the fire, always keeping it just right. It feels almost like she's here with you in this moment, watching over you, her steady hands guiding you through the darkness. And though she is gone, her spirit, her love, is not. It remains in the house, in the small acts of care you continue to do for yourself, for the world around you. It is a small but enduring kind of love. As the night deepens and the wind howls outside, you begin to feel a quiet peace settle within you. The burden of the past, the grief, the loss, hasn't disappeared, but it doesn't feel as heavy as it once did. You've learned, slowly, to carry it with you without letting it consume you. There's still so much uncertainty, so much fear that clings to the corners of your thoughts. But in this moment, as you sit by the fire, you realize that you have made it this far. You have endured, and that in itself is a kind of triumph. You close your eyes for a moment, listening to the wind outside, to the crackling of the fire, and you realize that despite everything, you are still here. And that perhaps is the most important thing of all. Weeks pass, and the landscape begins to shift once again. The once barren fields are now sprouting with new life. Small green shoots emerging from the soil, fragile yet persistent. The trees, though still skeletal, have started to show signs of promise, buds breaking through the cold bark. The world outside is slowly waking up, and with it, a new feeling stirs within you, one that you can't quite name, but it is there, hidden just beneath the surface. There is a strange sense of hope that is beginning to take root inside you, just as the earth is taking root beneath your feet. You begin to take long walks through the village, walking past the homes that still stand, past the houses that were once filled with laughter and warmth. The streets that were once so quiet now feel different. There are faint signs of life, people gathering in small groups, tending to gardens or helping each other with chores. They are cautious, still unsure, but there is a faint spark of something you haven't seen in months. Community. The plague has not loosened its grip completely, but there is a sense that somehow it is beginning to fade. The world is beginning to heal, piece by piece. The first rays of sunshine feel warmer now. You walk past the square where the market used to be, but today there's a difference. People are slowly returning, setting up small stalls, selling the vegetables they've managed to grow. The smells of fresh produce and bread, once lost to the empty streets, now mix with the gentle breeze. It's a small thing, but it fills you with a quiet sense of possibility. The simple act of gathering, of sharing what little is left, feels like a victory, like a sign that the world, even in its brokenness, is still capable of giving back. You stop to watch an elderly woman barter for some apples. Her face is lined with age and sorrow, but she smiles as she hands over a few coins in exchange for the fruit. Her eyes crinkle at the edges, the corners of her lips turning up in a way that reminds you of your mother, of her gentle smile that always seemed to bring comfort. You stand there for a moment, watching the exchange, and realize that for the first time in a long while, you aren't thinking about the past. You aren't thinking about the death, the loss, the plague. You're simply living in this moment, a moment that is quiet but filled with life. You continue walking, letting the sights and sounds of the village settle around you. You see others too, neighbors you haven't seen in months, their faces lined with grief, but also marked by something else: resilience. There are no grand gestures, no celebrations, but the way they walk, the way they exchange glances, tells you everything you need to know. They have survived just as you have, and in their survival there is something unspoken. A shared understanding, a bond. You are all in this together, living through something that no one else will ever fully understand, but it is enough to know that you are not alone. When you return home, you notice the difference in the air. The room still feels empty, but it no longer feels suffocating. The silence is still there, but it isn't as loud, as crushing, as it once was. You sit by the hearth, the fire still crackling softly, and you think of your mother, of all the people who are gone, and you realize that they are still with you. Not in the physical sense, but in the memories that have been woven into the fabric of your life. You carry them with you every moment, every step, and they are not lost. They have shaped who you are today. The grief, the loss, they will always be there, but they no longer define you. You no longer feel as if you are drowning in it. You have found a way to survive, a way to live, despite the suffering that has come before. And now, with the new life emerging in the fields, in the village, and within you, you feel the first stirrings of something else. Something that had been buried beneath the weight of fear and sorrow. Hope. You step outside again, the warmth of the sun against your skin more noticeable now. The village may still be fragile, but it is not broken. There is life here, small, quiet, but real, and it is enough to keep moving forward. You breathe in the air deeply, feeling it fill your lungs, and for the first time in a long time, you feel the faintest sense of peace. The days slip by in a steady rhythm now, no longer marked by the uncertainty that once held your every thought hostage. The air, once thick with fear, now feels lighter, as if the weight of the world has been lifted, if only for a moment. You wake each day to the sound of birds singing in the trees, the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you let yourself enjoy the peace. The world outside still holds the scars of the plague, but there is a faint new energy in the village, a quiet, steady force that rises from the earth itself. The small moments of joy are still few and far between, but they exist now. You see it in the way people begin to gather outside once more, even if it's just for a moment. One brief conversation across a fence, the laughter of children playing in the dirt. They are small things, fleeting, but they are real. And in those moments you feel a sense of connection, a sense of shared humanity that you've almost forgotten. The grief will never fully leave, but you are learning how to live alongside it, to find a way to survive, not just endure. You visit the garden each morning now, tending to the small plot you've begun to grow. The soil feels good beneath your fingertips, the warm sun on your back. The plants that were once stunted by the cold are slowly beginning to thrive, pushing their way through the earth with determination. There's something deeply satisfying about seeing the green shoots of life pushing through the dirt, something that reminds you that, even after the most brutal of winters, the earth still has the power to regenerate, to grow, to heal. You crouch down next to a row of young vegetables, your fingers brushing the tender leaves. A smile tugs at your lips, small, hesitant, but it's there. You think of your mother, how she would have been proud of the garden, how she always believed in the power of simple things, of growing something from the ground and watching it come to life. You can still hear her voice in your mind, her soft encouragement, her gentle optimism in the face of whatever hardships came your way. It feels like she's still here with you, in the soil, in the plants, in the quiet moments you share with the land. There is peace here, in the earth, in the slow rhythm of growth, of life continuing despite all odds. It's not the same as before, nothing ever will be, but it's enough. It's enough to remind you that there is something beyond the plague, beyond the loss. There is life and it finds a way. It's a quiet kind of strength, one that doesn't demand attention, but rather it waits patiently for the right time to bloom. And you are learning to do the same, to wait for the right time, to let yourself heal, even when the world feels uncertain. The sound of laughter reaches your ears again, faint but clear, and you look up to see a few of your neighbors walking toward the market square. They are moving more freely now, their steps lighter than they have been in months. There is a cautious optimism in their faces, as if they are still unsure of what the future holds, but they are willing to take a chance on it. You stand and dust off your hands, a sense of quiet pride rising in your chest. It may not be much, but it's a beginning. A small step towards something new. You begin to join in again, taking small walks to the market square, exchanging greetings with familiar faces. Each interaction feels less strained, less fearful. You can see it in the way people look at you now, the way their eyes linger for a moment longer, no longer filled with suspicion or dread. There's a new kind of understanding between you all, a shared experience that binds you in a way that words never could. The weight of the past is still there, but you're learning to live with it, to honor it, without letting it hold you back. Even as you smile and wave to the villagers, you can't help but feel the fragility of this moment. The plague may have passed, but life is still unpredictable, still fragile. But for the first time in a long time, you feel like you're moving forward, that the world isn't just something to survive anymore, it's something to be embraced again. You return to the garden in the late afternoon, watching the golden light of the setting sun bathe the land in a warm glow. The peace you feel now is deeper, more rooted than before. The world still holds its scars, but it is healing, and so are you. And in this quiet moment, with the earth beneath your hands and the sky above you, you allow yourself to breathe, to be still, to feel alive. As the weeks continue to roll by, a shift begins to happen, quiet but unmistakable. The air feels different now, lighter, as though the weight of endless grief and loss has started to lift. Just a little. It's a fragile change, the kind that makes you hesitant to acknowledge it, afraid that acknowledging it might cause it to slip away just as quickly as it arrived. But it's there, a faint promise of something new, something that has yet to fully take form. You walk through the village, and for the first time in months, you sense that things are beginning to stir again, even if only on the smallest of scales. The people who remain, the survivors, are finding their rhythm once more. There's still a carefulness in their movements, a wariness in their eyes, but there's also something else, something faint but persistent, hope. It's hard to see at first, but when you look closely, you can find it in the way they stand a little taller, speak a little more freely. Conversations, though quiet and measured, begin to fill the air again, like the tentative flutter of birds returning to the sky after a long storm. The streets, still quiet, are no longer filled with that heavy, oppressive silence. Instead, there is an undercurrent of life, of people remembering what it felt like to live in a world that didn't feel like it was falling apart. The market square, which had once been a ghost town, has started to see movement again. Slowly, at first, the merchants return, setting up small stalls of produce and bread, their goods humble but enough to fill the stomach. The scents of fresh fruit and baked goods fill the air, competing with the sharp, still-present scent of the earth, damp from the recent rains. The sounds of life, slow, steady, fill the square. There are no loud celebrations, no boisterous laughter, but there are smiles now. Quiet, cautious smiles, but smiles nonetheless. It feels like the first cracks in a world that had been entirely shattered. You stand there for a moment, taking it all in. The scene is humble, far from the bustle of the life that once thrived here. But it is enough. The world has changed, and it may never return to what it once was. But there is still beauty to be found in the small, quiet moments. You see an elderly man trading a basket of apples with a young woman, both of them exchanging small, soft words. A young child tugs at their mother's skirt, looking up at the fresh vegetables with wide eyes. The small, everyday moments that make up a life, they are still there. You find yourself moving towards the stall, your own body almost guided by some unseen force. Something inside you stirring, pulling you toward this quiet resurgence of life. You step up to a woman who's selling loaves of bread. She looks at you with a quiet, almost wary smile, but there's warmth in her eyes. a recognition of something shared, something that connects you all. You buy a loaf, the warm scent of the bread filling your senses as she hands it over. The small act, this simple exchange, is a reminder of the connections that have always existed here, connections that the plague tried to erase but couldn't. You take the bread, walking slowly through the square, feeling a quiet sense of accomplishment, of survival. The world around you still feels fragile, still feels like it could crumble at any moment, but there's something different in the air. It's as though, in the smallest ways, life is beginning to fight back. The village is not yet fully healed, but there is a new energy here, one that's soft and patient, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through after a long storm. You realize, as you continue walking, that you are part of this too. You are one of the ones who survived, one of the ones who made it through. You are here, standing on this land, watching the world begin to find its way back. The fire in your heart that night feels warmer than it has in a long time. You sit by it, breaking off a piece of the bread, feeling the warmth spread through you, the softness of it in your hands. The silence is still here, but it feels different now. Less heavy, less oppressive. It's a quiet that isn't born of fear, but of something gentler, something that takes its time. You look out the window, the night sky dotted with stars, and you realize that there is more to come. The village will heal. It will find its way, piece by piece. You too will heal. You feel for the first time in a long while the glimmer of hope. Again. You can't predict what the future will bring, but for now, you know that you have the strength to face it, to live with what comes next. And for the first time, you don't feel like you're just surviving anymore. You're living. As the seasons begin to change, so too does the village, though in ways that can hardly be noticed at first. The trees, still bearing the scars of their battle against the harsh winds of winter, begin to show signs of softening, their bare branches slowly giving way to budding leaves. The soft green of new growth begins to peek through the earth, a gentle promise that life, in its quietest and most patient form, is making its way back. It's not an immediate transformation, but rather a slow, deliberate unfolding, like a flower blooming after a long, cold night. You find yourself walking through the village once again, your steps lighter than before. The weight of the past, though still there, feels less pressing. The grief that had once consumed you, dragging you into a sea of hopelessness, now feels more like a distant memory. Something you've learned to carry, but not let define you. The world may have changed, but there is still life in it, still hope, still moments of warmth that make the coldness more bearable. There are more people out now, though the village is still far from bustling. But each interaction is a small victory. Each quiet greeting, each brief exchange, is a reminder that you are not alone. You see the same faces as before, but there is something new in their expressions now. A flicker of life, of recognition, as if the village has found a way to heal together, despite the losses. You pass by familiar faces, and there is no longer the awkwardness, the fear of contagion, that once defined your interactions. Instead, there is a subtle bond, an understanding that can't be expressed in words, but is felt in the shared experience. You make your way to the village square, where a few small stalls are set up again. The scent of freshly baked bread and roasted vegetables fills the air, and though it's not a feast, it is more than enough to satisfy the hunger in your stomach. The merchants here, their faces weathered by hardship, offer their goods with a kind of weary pride, their eyes searching yours for the same quiet recognition. There are no great celebrations, no fanfare, but there is a kind of unspoken relief in the air, as if the worst is finally behind them. The market, once abandoned, is now slowly finding its rhythm. You see children playing in the dirt, their laughter light and free, and for a moment it almost feels like the world hasn't changed at all. But then you remember, everything has changed, and yet, in the midst of this change, there is beauty. It's not the same beauty that once filled the village, bright, loud, and filled with the sounds of music and dancing, but it's a quieter kind of beauty. A beauty found in resilience, in the ability to keep going, even when the world has lost its familiar face. You stop by a stall and purchase a loaf of bread. The woman who sells it to you smiles, her face lined with exhaustion but still warm, still kind. Her hands tremble slightly as she hands you the bread, and in her eyes you see the same recognition you feel in your own heart. This is survival. This is life. It's not perfect, but it's real, and it's enough. As you make your way back home, you feel the weight of the bread in your hands, the simple warmth of it bringing a sense of comfort. The house is still empty, still filled with the echo of things lost, but the quiet seems different now. It's no longer suffocating, it's just still, like the calm after a storm. You take the bread to the table where the light from the window pours in softly, casting long shadows across the floor. There is no longer the sense of dread that once filled the space. The house feels like a home again, even if it is different from what it once was. You sit by the window and break off a piece of bread, the warmth of it spreading through you. You think of the village, of the people who are still here, of the lives that have been rebuilt. You know that the world will never be the same, but you also know that it doesn't have to be. You can still find peace here, still find a way to live even in the face of everything that's been lost. The wind picks up outside, rustling the trees, and you look out at the horizon. It's not the world you once knew, but it's a world that is still worth living in. The sun is setting, casting a warm golden light across the landscape, and for the first time in a long while, you feel a deep sense of peace settle in your chest. The future is still uncertain, still fragile, but in this moment, that's enough. For now, you have everything you need. The village feels more alive than it has in months, though the recovery is still fragile. There's a subtle shift in the way people carry themselves, the quiet acknowledgement that they have made it through the worst of it. The cold winds of the past may still whisper through the trees, but there is something else now. A quiet warmth, a slow but sure promise that life will continue, that it will, in time, find its way back to the rhythm of the world. You find yourself walking down the familiar path to the edge of the village again, but this time the air feels different. There's an ease to the breeze, a gentleness that makes you pause and take a deep breath. The trees, which had stood like sentinels through the long, empty days, are now dotted with new leaves, the green pushing through the barren branches, tender and fresh. You can hear the distant sound of birds chirping, the high trill of a sparrow, the soft rustling of wings, a song that seems to rise from the earth itself. It's a small thing, but it fills the air with a kind of joy that has been missing for so long. You look around the village again, but now you see it with new eyes. The stillness of the place is not so heavy anymore. The market square, though still sparse, is beginning to show signs of life. The people who once seemed so distant, so caught in their own grief, are beginning to open up, to reconnect. Conversations are happening once more, though soft and measured. The elders sit outside exchanging small stories in quiet wisdom with the younger ones, who listen with rapt attention, absorbing the knowledge of a life that has been lived in ways they can only now begin to understand. You make your way to the small bakery, the smell of freshly baked bread and pastries filling the air. The baker, once a shadow of his former self, now stands taller, his face still worn but less burdened. He greets you with a quiet smile as you step inside, offering you a loaf of bread, warm and crusty, the scent almost too inviting to resist. You hand him a few coins, and though the exchange is brief, there is a connection between you, one forged in shared loss and quiet survival. No words are needed, just the simple act of buying bread, of participating in something small and life-affirming. You walk out of the bakery and sit on a nearby bench, breaking off a piece of the bread and savoring its warmth. The sun, which had been hidden for so long, now breaks through the clouds, casting a golden light across the village. The warmth feels comforting on your face, like a familiar embrace, and you allow yourself to close your eyes for a moment, feeling the light soak into your skin, into your very being. It's not the end of the world that once was, but it's a new world, one that is fragile, but real. As you sit there, the sound of children's laughter reaches your ears again, clear and unburdened by fear. You glance over and see them playing, their feet kicking up dust as they run through the village square. For a moment, it almost feels as if the world has reset itself, as though the past few months of hardship, of loss, have been wiped clean by the simple joy of children playing. You smile softly, knowing that this is the world now, the one that exists in the space between the past and the future. You rise from the bench, the bread finished, and continue on your walk, each step a quiet testament to your survival. The world is not perfect, and the road ahead will undoubtedly be filled with challenges, but in this moment, in the warmth of the sun and the sound of life beginning to return, you realize that it doesn't matter. You have come this far, you are here, and you will continue just like the world around you. The future is still uncertain, but you feel a quiet resolve settle in your chest. You don't know what lies ahead, but for the first time in what feels like forever, you no longer feel afraid. You are ready to face it, whatever it may be. The days continue their slow progression, but there's something different about today. A subtle shift in the air, a quiet hum that fills the space around you. You wake to the sound of birds in the trees outside, the soft rustling of their wings as they flutter through the branches, and for the first time in a long while, you feel the stirrings of something more than just survival. The world, it seems, is moving forward, even if it's only in small steps, and in that movement, in that gentle progress, there's something undeniably comforting about the idea that life, however fragile, continues. You walk outside, the morning air crisp against your skin, the scent of damp earth and growing things filling your lungs. The village, once silent and empty, now feels like a place of potential. There's still uncertainty, still quiet fear hiding just below the surface, but it's tempered now by a quiet resilience. People are beginning to leave their homes more, walking through the streets with purpose, their heads held just a little higher. The sound of quiet chatter fills the air as people pass one another, offering small nods of recognition, exchanging brief words. It's not much, but it's a beginning. You make your way to the small square at the heart of the village, where a few merchants have set up their stalls again. The air smells of fresh bread, and there's the faint scent of herbs and vegetables mingling with the breeze. It's a modest market, far from the bustling energy it once had, but there's a sense of pride in the way the vendors conduct their trade, the way the villagers exchange goods, their eyes soft with gratitude. It's a quiet kind of life, one that feels, in its own way, more real than anything you've known before. You buy a small bundle of herbs from one of the vendors, and as you pay, the woman behind the stall gives you a brief, knowing smile. You can see the lines of exhaustion on her face, the weariness from everything that's come before, but there's something else in her eyes now, a flicker of hope. It's the same look you've seen in the eyes of others, the survivors, the ones who have made it through, who are still here, still standing, despite the storm they've weathered. You walk away from the stall, the herbs clutched in your hand, and for the first time in a long time, you realize something. You are no longer merely a survivor. You are a part of this new world. The grief, the loss will never fully leave you, but it no longer defines you. It has become a part of you, something that you carry with quiet strength, but you are no longer trapped by it. You are learning how to live again, to move forward, even in the face of the unknown. As you make your way through the village, you notice the small signs of progress. New plants growing in the gardens, the first buds appearing on the trees, the sound of children playing, their laughter carrying on the breeze. It's still not what it was before, but it's something. It's enough. And you begin to realize that this moment is what you've been waiting for. The future is uncertain, yes, but it's full of possibilities now, small as they may be. You find yourself at the edge of the village once again, the path leading out into the fields, the open sky stretching out before you. The sun is low in the sky, casting long shadows over the land, and you pause for a moment to take it all in. The world is not the same, but it's not broken either. It's something new, something different, but there's life here. There's hope. You stand there for a while, just looking out at the horizon, and for the first time in ages, you feel the weight in your chest begin to ease. The burden of survival, of merely existing, is lifting. You are still here. You are still moving forward, and with that you take a deep breath and step forward, not just into the future, but into life itself. The village is different now. The air feels lighter, less burdened by the weight of what has passed. The days are no longer marked by the constant worry of survival, but by a kind of quiet determination. It's a subtle change, not one that you can point to or measure, but it's there, in the way people move, the way they speak to each other, the way they go about their days. There's a sense of purpose in the air, a feeling that even though the past has left its mark, there is still something worth holding on to, something worth building. You find yourself waking earlier now, the soft light of dawn creeping through your window, casting gentle shadows across the room. The world outside seems quieter than before, not in the oppressive way it once was, but in a way that allows you to hear things you might have missed. The chirping of birds, the wind rustling through the trees, the distant murmur of voices rising from the market. It's a sound that's slowly becoming more familiar again, a reminder that life, no matter how fragile, is moving forward. You take your morning walks more often now, moving with purpose through the village. The path feels more like home with each passing day. You notice the changes, small, imperceptible at first, but noticeable now. The gardens that had been empty fields are now alive with plants, their tendrils reaching up toward the sky, stretching toward the sun. The market is busier now, though still far from its former vibrance. The exchange of goods has become a form of quiet solidarity, a way of connecting with one another without words. As you walk, you pause to speak with a few of the villagers, offering them a smile, a small gesture of acknowledgement. The conversations are short, but they hold more weight now. They are about the small victories, about the first crops of the season, the return of the birds, the new growth in the fields. These are the things that matter now, the exchange of simple words, the acknowledgement of the shared experience, the recognition that you are not alone in this journey. You stop by the bakery again, where the familiar scent of freshly baked bread fills the air. The baker greets you with a warm smile, his hands still rough from the labor of the past months. There is no longer the same wariness in his eyes, no longer the burden of grief that had weighed him down before. He is tired, yes, but there is something else in him now. A quiet sense of purpose, a drive to rebuild, to continue. You purchase your bread and thank him, feeling the weight of it in your hands, the warmth of it reminding you that even in the smallest things, there is life, there is strength. You continue through the village, the people you pass greeting you with smiles, their faces less drawn, their eyes clearer. It's as though the veil of fear has lifted, just a little. The world is still fragile, still uncertain, but there is something different now. It's a soft but unmistakable shift, one that can't be measured in grand gestures, but in the quiet, everyday actions of the villagers as they move through their lives. As you reach the edge of the village, you stop and look out at the horizon. The fields stretch out before you, the dark soil giving way to the faint green of new growth. The sky is vast, wide and open, and for the first time in a long while, you feel a sense of possibility. The world is changing. You can feel it in the way the sun rises, in the way the earth is beginning to breathe again, in the way people are returning to one another, finding small moments of connection in the midst of their shared loss. It's not much, but it's enough. You take a deep breath, the cool air filling your lungs, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you exhale with ease. The burden of the past is still there, but it is no longer so overwhelming. The village may never return to what it once was, but it is not broken. It is simply different, and that difference, while painful, is also filled with possibility. The future is still uncertain, still fragile, but there is a quiet hope now, one that rests in the hearts of the people who are still here. You turn away from the horizon and walk back toward the village, your heart lighter than it has been in a long time. The road ahead is long, but you know in your bones that it is a road worth walking. The sun dips low on the horizon, casting a soft golden glow over the land, as if the world itself is finally beginning to breathe again after a long, suffocating silence. The sky is painted in hues of amber and rose, and the shadows stretch out like long fingers, embracing the village in their cool grasp. You stand at the edge of the village once more, looking out at the familiar landscape, the fields, the trees, the winding path that leads beyond. The world may have changed, but there is a comfort in the familiar, in the things that remain constant. The breeze carries the scent of earth and greenery, reminding you of the earth's quiet resilience, its ability to heal, to renew. You take a step forward, breathing in the cool evening air, the weight of the day settling gently on your shoulders. It's been months since the plague, and though the world has irrevocably shifted, there is something in you that feels lighter. Perhaps it is the acceptance that, though the past cannot be undone, the future is still yours to navigate. You have endured, and now you are learning how to live again. Not just to survive, but to live fully, in the moments that are here, in the moments that are yet to come. The village, too, has found a new rhythm. It's still not the lively, bustling place it once was, but there is a pulse to it now, faint but steady. The people who remain are walking the same paths they always have, but they walk with their heads held higher, their steps a little surer. There is no grand celebration, no return to the world they once knew, but there is something else, something quieter, but perhaps even more important, resilience. The soft murmur of voices now fills the air, the low hum of life beginning again. There is an understanding among them all, a shared experience that no one else could ever fully comprehend, but that binds them together in a way that words never could. You return to your home, the familiar door creaking softly as you step inside. The house is still empty, still filled with the echoes of the past, but now there is a warmth in it. Not the warmth of a family gathered together, but a quiet warmth that fills the space differently. It is a warmth that comes from survival, from endurance, from the act of moving forward. The memories of those you've lost still linger, but they no longer overwhelm you. They have found a place within you, not as a burden, but as a quiet presence, a part of the foundation upon which you are rebuilding your life. You sit by the hearth, the fire crackling softly in the quiet room. The warmth of the flames wraps around you, and you realize that, in this moment, you feel at peace. The grief is still there, but it is no longer suffocating. It has found a place beside you, no longer pushing you down, but allowing you to carry it with quiet strength. You've learned to live with it, to let it exist without letting it define you. Outside, the village continues to breathe. You hear the faint sound of laughter from a distance, a child's voice calling out in play. It's not the bustling noise of the past, but it's enough. It's more than enough. The quiet return of life is all anyone can ask for in a world that has been forever changed. The night settles in around you, the stars slowly emerging in the vast dark sky. You look up, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you feel connected to it all. The stars, the earth, the people who still walk this land. The world is imperfect, fragile, but it is alive, and that is enough. You close your eyes, the weight of the day gently easing from your shoulders, and you let the quiet envelop you. There's no rush, no urgency. There is simply the moment here, now, and that for now is enough.